As promised, today I have a list of propositions. Not really anything crazy, but what would I do if the world decided to go crazy and make me college football commissioner, really commissioner of college sports in general? What would I do? How would I go forward and try to fix some of the glaring problems within the landscape of college sports? Is it NIL first? Is it understanding how to make a sanctioning body operate properly? Is understanding how the intricate parts of the NIL and transfer portal game are actually working. We're going to discuss all of it, but you might be surprised at what the most important thing is. Welcome in. This is Armchair Analysis. This is episode 2 of the return here on the channel. I thank y'all so much for tuning in. Episode 1 performed much better than I thought it would, and I greatly appreciate it. Again, thank you guys so much for tuning in. Thank y'all for being here, and thank y'all for helping make this community work out. Yesterday was a fun day. We brought this channel back. We got our college baseball episode out on ICM. If you haven't checked that out, please feel free to go check that out as well. But today, right now, this is all about college football specifically. But you can really take this and translate it to any other college sport right now. I think there are a few that don't work like this or will not operate like this. But I think the main sports, football, basketball, baseball, those ones typically, I think you're going to see a lot of these translations, whether they're as high of a scale or not. You're gonna kind of understand where I'm going with some of this. So I've thought up 3 specific problems, and then I've kind of thought of a couple other pieces, and really just one other piece that I feel really would help even further. I must say this from the very beginning. This is not a what I think should happen or will happen within the landscape of college sports. Why? Because this is not something that I think is fixable. Unfortunately, we have the NCAA and multiple others have kind of allowed this to get where it is right now, simply because they have given themselves, really, they've given all of the schools too much room to operate. And when you do that, it's very hard to reverse course and take away certain things, what are in, what can be looked at as rights within the sport and within the landscape of college sports specifically. When we talk about NIL and the way that it operates so far, it would feel like you're taking things away if you were to try to make any changes, specifically instituting like a salary cap or a floor even. It would feel very, very hard to change the transfer portal right now. There are a few things you could do to better kind of let it better operate and do better things, but we'll talk about those. But the biggest thing, I think, and it's not NIL that I think is the biggest problem in college sports right now. We just saw Indiana win a national championship. They're not the biggest NIL supported program. I mean, certainly they have boosted that up by over 10 million in the last couple of seasons, of course, with Mark Cuban jumping in and a handful of others that have helped donate and make this team more competitive over the last couple of years, starting with, of course, the hiring of Kurt Signetti. But Indiana just won a national championship. Do we really believe NIL is the biggest problem in college sports? If you do, you don't understand what's really happening. And I don't say that in a disrespectful way. This, again, is open for all interpretation and all comment. But if you truly believe NIL is the biggest problem, I don't think you really understand what you're looking at or seeing. When you look at college sports, it all begins up top. The NCAA, the sanctioning body of college sports, at least of major college sports. And the NCAA has lost their control over everything around college sports. It's not just the NIL game. It's not just the transfer portal. It goes so far as to just the ground rules for eligibility within college sports. We don't even know what the ground rules are. Why do we not know? Because the courts are overruling the NCAA because of poorly written rules and regulations. And because of those poorly written rules and regulations, we're seeing countless players go to their respective state courts, take this up through that, and next thing you know, they're now eligible again. The biggest example we can look at, just a couple months ago now, Trinidad Chambliss finally got a ruling from this Mississippi, the court of the state of Mississippi, saying that he was eligible because the judge believed the NCAA did not operate in good faith. And when you think of that and understand that courts are now overruling everything the NCAA does or has put in place as rules, the NCAA doesn't even control its own sports, doesn't even control what they are supposed to be in charge of, essentially. So is the NCAA really what it needs? Do we need to get rid of that? Do we need to move forward? I don't think so. I think we just need somebody with a spine, first off. And I'm not saying that in a negative way. I think there's a lot of things that have kind of turned back in the right direction over time. But that's what we need, is somebody with a spine, somebody willing to say, hey, look, these are the rules that are poorly written. We're going to readjust these rules. And I really love what was announced about a week ago. Can I say that and not get the meme thrown on me? I love what was brought up about 7 days ago, which is the following. The NCAA is set in the future to discuss a 5-year eligibility rule, starting at whichever the first occurrence would be, whether it's a 19th birthday and or high school graduation. So 5 years from there to go on and play college sports. And once that 5 years is up, you're done. You don't play any further. The only change I will make, and the only change I would say I would do differently, based off of what we know of these proposals, or the supposed proposal, is that injuries, specifically in the senior season, if they are in their senior year and a player does not play 25% of games due to injury, not because they aren't good or aren't able to play at that level. I'm not saying not good as in like, oh man, I could have done that. No, I'm saying not good as in the fact that you're a third string player all 4 years and or a walk-on or a scout team player, and you're just looking to get a chance somewhere else now because you kind of run out of chances. If you get injured before you play 25% of the season, also known as 4 games in the college football, or sorry, 3 games in the college football season, 4 games would be 33%. But if you get hurt before playing a quarter of your games, in the college basketball world, we'll set that number at 7 or 8. If you get hurt before that, you could file for 1 extra year of eligibility. Now, if you get hurt that next year, sorry, but it just wasn't meant to be. I mean, we really want to start regulating things. It begins with something as simple as understanding what eligibility is and what it should be, what the parameters are, setting strict boundaries. And the reason that this is even a problem is because of the COVID rules. Do you remember during COVID, everybody was gifted that extra year of eligibility? Well, everybody started kind of clamoring that they deserved that extra year of eligibility. And now we have players who have played in college for 9 years. Now we have players who are asking for 6 years of eligibility or 7th years of eligibility because they played JUCO for 2 years. Setting the strict, hey, from your 19th birthday and or your high school graduation until you turn 23 or 24, you are eligible. And as soon as that number ends, you're no longer eligible to play college sports. I think that's perfectly fine. I am perfectly okay with it. You know what the outliers are to that? Guys who went and played pro in the MLB or played semi-pro, I guess, or minor league baseball, like Brandon Whedon, for example, a guy that came out and played at Oklahoma State, went in the NFL after that. Like, those are kind of the situations that end, but they're so few and far between. Nobody's really hurt by that. You set this strict guideline, and if you can put that in place, it changes a whole lot about this really the landscape of college sports. The NCAA no longer gets overruled by courts because there's specific boundaries to be laid out. There's no randomness to it. There's no, oh well, this rule's just written poorly, so we're just gonna give you that extra year. There's no reason that the NCAA should be able to be sued by players and lose. And if there is, it's because things are written poorly. This right here would be priority number 1. If there's nothing else I would do in my 24 hours or however long I would get to be a commissioner of college sports and really fix the landscape of college sports, this would be the biggest thing. If you can sort out eligibility, you sort out the rest of the problems, or at least you begin to get towards sorting out the rest of the problems. I think that's a really big deal, and that's why that is my main focus going into my time as hypothetical commissioner. Move on to number 2. It has to do with the transfer portal, but to be honest, I don't really care about the transfer portal as much as people might believe. What I do care about is tampering. It has taken almost 4 years. Yes, you can count them. Almost 4 years, or at least close to the 4th season, since this has taken place. Since Cade McNamara transferred to Iowa. Iowa just now, like just today, as I'm yesterday, even as I'm recording this because it's past midnight. Just yesterday was handed a 4 vacated wins from that 2023 season because of tampering. There needs to be stiffer and faster action taken on tampering, and it needs to be taken seriously. It doesn't need to just continue to be brushed off. You know, Pat Narduzzi, everybody called him a snitch. Everybody called him a bitch, even, for some of the things that he said over the course of the years. But the one thing is, he cared about doing things right. And while he might have been doing them himself, I'm not going to sit here and say because I don't know. But what I will say is that he was one of the few that's willing to call it out. Has been one of the few willing to call it out. Year in, year out, he will say what's on his mind, specifically when it comes to that. If the NCAA would just sit back and crack down on this tampering problem, I think we would see a lot of different things change. But you need to do it immediately. And when you do it immediately, not only does it need to result in a suspension for the coach and or coaches who took part in this tampering scandal, it also needs to take place for the player who was tampered with. So for Cade McNamara, he should have been suspended for 4 games to start the year for allowing that to even take place. Because guess what? We're all adults. These kids are all over 18. I say kids because I'm close to 26 years old now. And I say kids because they're all younger than me at this point. Every one of them are 18 years old. They are capable of making their own decisions and doing this the right way and or doing it the wrong way. These coaches are certainly adults, and all of them are certainly capable of doing things the right way or the wrong way. And every one of them should be handed a suspension. Anytime tampering's seen, suspension. Right then and there. As soon as the investigation is cleared, and it should not be a 4-year-long investigation. It should be a 1-week-long investigation at most. As soon as it's been announced that somebody has reached out, start the investigation. Get it over with immediately. Because we're taking all these other things seriously, all these off the field incidents seriously. We're worried about all these other things, but we're not worried about what is essentially kind of like a termite eating at the foundation of every single thing with this sport, simply because we can't control that coaches are reaching out to players in times where they should not be reaching out to players prior to the transfer portal opening. I don't care who it happens to. It happens to everybody at some point. I almost guarantee it, and I'm guaranteed that almost everybody has done so. Crack down on tampering. There's a difference between tampering and recruiting. Recruiting happens within a specific window, and it can happen at any time. But tampering, reaching out to players, trying to get them to transfer or commit to entering the transfer portal prior to it even opening, should not be happening. There's no excuse for it. Take this seriously. Start to act like, again, a authority figure, NCAA. And again, we probably cross off a handful of the problems we have in college sports right now. All from just knocking out this one issue. That's number 2 for me. Number 3 is the NIL and the NIL game. Yes, I think there should be a cap. I don't know what the number should be. I don't know what's fair. Honestly, I really don't. Because at the end of the day, somebody's going to feel slighted. Whether it's the teams that can spend way more than what I say, or whether it's the teams that can't spend as much as I say. Somebody's going to feel slighted by it. But I would say that I think there's a reason to believe that this is not as big of an issue as possible. Because again, I pointed out Indiana doing what they did. We've seen other schools kind of be able to show up at times, understanding that the blue bloods and the programs that have higher revenue are going to be the ones who are able to pay more as long as there's not a cap. But if you set the cap at 25 million, and this is again hypothetical, I think we're too far gone to make this happen. If you set a cap at 25 million, how do we feel? I feel like that's a really good place to start. I feel like that's the place to be. Uh, because honestly, the programs that have always contended should be able to make a $25 million cap, if that's the number. The teams that have not are going to have their bigger problems. The teams that don't make as much in revenue are going to have a little bit bigger problems, and that is what it is. That's unfortunate, but that's just part of it. It's always been the problem. Let's not act like players haven't been paid for a long time and that this didn't happen even before NIL started. I mean, we all remember the Pony Express and all that stuff, right? Like we know that this has happened for a long time. Let's not sit here and act all high and mighty like it hasn't happened or like the sport was absolutely pure before NIL existed. It wasn't, and it's not pure now. But if you put something in place where you can kind of level the playing field at least a little bit and really follow up with this too. It's not just about making sure that the playing field is leveled on paper and we just assume everybody's doing the right thing like we've always assumed everybody's doing the right thing. Start auditing this stuff out. And if something doesn't add up or something doesn't make sense, then you investigate it. The biggest thing is that, again, the NCAA has been pushed around by everybody else, and specifically by coaches, players, courtrooms, that they're so afraid to even try to do anything within the sport. They're so afraid to even levy the slightest penalties to anybody. That includes Michigan. If Michigan truly cheated or had some sort of an issue, by all means, those people should be suspended. Now, thankfully, they are all gone now, and I don't have to sit here and every single year talk about a Michigan scandal, I would hope. But if that's truly what happened, yeah, they should have all been investigated, and it should have been more thorough than what it was. I agree with that. I think there are certain things that aren't as important as others, but if that's truly what happened, the NCAA kind of got bullied throughout that entire process. The NCAA has been bullied throughout the entire process, again, of these player eligibility rulings that have gone through the courtrooms. The more that happens, the less the NCAA wants to even take care of anything. So when you sit here, you have to enforce these rules. You have to take them all serious. And if you don't take them serious, then sure enough, somebody's going to stretch the rule a little bit. Somebody's going to take that step forward. You give an inch and they will take a mile, as they say. And that's certainly what would happen here. It doesn't mean that we can't still have that there won't still be issues. It doesn't mean we solve everything. But I think putting a cap in place certainly allows for a little bit more parity within the sport. I think we're going to start growing further and further away from parity, and we're going to start drawing closer and closer to the same few teams every year. The same as it was throughout the 2010s, the same as it was throughout the 2000s. I understand that. I think we all do. I think we all, again, understand that paying players isn't new. But there was a time where this was not a thing, and where college sports did have parity because, certain players just develop better, certain coaches just develop better. We can have that sport still, even with the NIL game. It could still be that way. And I think that part of that just comes down to, again, is just proper regulation. And if the NCAA actually goes about this the right way, it could certainly happen. These are just the things I would do. And I think that all three of these things would put us in place with a better sport all around. A better landscape around college sports, plain and simple, all around. And that's the biggest thing that I wanted to do here. I want to just say, hey, look, it may not be easy. It may be easier said than done. But these are three very simple things that I think could certainly push us in the right direction. Now, I did have a comment yesterday, and I know Colin Bash's CFB show has had made his thoughts pretty clear, and he's not wrong by any means. I'm going to read the comment, which was, NIL is impossible to navigate with the current legal roadblocks. I don't hate the ideas, but baseball is getting a salary cap before college sports. No and no. I don't think either will. Because again, I think we're too far gone. We're too far into this for there to really be a way to draw it back unless somehow a court rules in favor of the NCAA making a rule. I just don't see it happening because they've been bullied out of every other thing they've tried to enforce. So I don't really know how that's going to carry forward. I think there's some certain truths to be said that there is and there are ways to make this happen and make these things work. It's just very rocky right now because we don't know. We don't know what the NCAA is going to get ruled for. We don't know what they're going to get ruled against. And I think that makes it the most difficult that we could find going forward. My last little piece, and this one really is just not, this one's probably the least important, but it's one that I think would certainly bring back some loyalty. But I think it also brings back a little bit to the rivalries too around college football. I think we've lost a little bit of the that kind of that punch that's packed by all these rivalries around this sport because kids don't stay around very long. The loyalty is not there. The coaches don't stay around very long. There's plenty about these coaches that we could get into, and maybe at some point we talk about that. And I know that I'm putting a lot of regulations on players. It's the easiest thing to regulate. Coaches have always been able to move around. Players should still be able to move around at their discretion. But I think it should be within reason, right? I think we shouldn't forget why we're there. The original point was, hey, this is a way for me to play or to go to school and do that in a way that I could afford, was playing sports. It's almost become like they're going there for a job, and again, I understand that. That's what the NIL game's for. But when you look at this, I think bringing back the one-time transfer rule, maybe not in the sense of you transfer once and then after that you sit out for a year. I think you bring back the one-time transfer rule. Then the second time you transfer, you have to sit for 3 games. If you transfer a third time, you sit for 6 games. And if you transfer a fourth time, well, then you're missing half of your senior season. I just can't quite believe that we've allowed so many things to get so out of hand at once. I don't think that this is impossible. I don't think college sports are bad. I really don't. I've actually frequented college baseball games this season. I think I've been to 4. I've got probably 3 or 4 more on the schedule to get to, and I'm excited for it. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I've enjoyed kind of getting to see a different perspective as somebody who has always been a lifelong baseball fan. I played baseball growing up. I understand that sport probably just as well as I do football. And I feel like I watched that and I understand how pure sports could be. NIL game is not quite as heavy there outside of the SEC, I think. Um, the playing field's pretty even. There's not really a whole lot of excuse me, man, that came out of nowhere. There's not really a whole lot of tampering going on. Like, it feels like the purest form of college sports we have right now, outside of some of the others. Soccer, I'm sure, is probably in that conversation. Um, I've been told that college lacrosse is kind of similar in a similar spot. Volleyball seems to be in a similar spot. There are some programs that have a higher NIL budget for volleyball than others, but you know, it feels like those sports have been able to stay relatively pure throughout all the changes around college sports. And seeing that it can still happen gives me this bit of hope that maybe we can still get there with college football, college basketball, and create something that everybody should be proud of. The NCAA, the universities, and the players, along with the coaches, everybody involved should be proud of what product is being put out year in, year out, and week in and week out on the field. If we can't get there, it creates this disdain, I think, for the sport. I think it creates this disdain for what is going on. It feels pretty damning right now where college sports are, just simply because there's not really a whole lot of regulation. And again, we watch the NCAA kind of get kicked in the nuts every time they try to do something, and it makes it feels damning. It feels like this is just an impossible hill to pass. I don't think we're quite there yet, but it starts with just having a set and doing something about it. I don't know where that lands. I don't know where it leads. It's going to be really interesting to watch over the next few years. So make sure you stick around because we're going to certainly not have our lack of conversations about NIL and the transfer portal and everything else here on this channel, especially as we go through seasons going forward. I thank y'all for tuning in. I know this was a long-winded, kind of an essay-style video. I don't know how many of these I'm going to do. I don't know if this was really good or not. I feel like it went well. I feel like I was on it through this video, but certainly somebody's going to think I'm dumb. Somebody's going to think I'm rambling on, and I understand that. But guess what? Free country. Say what you want. Use the comment section at your disposal as you wish. I don't know what the next video is going to be completely honest. Maybe just a catch up on the transfer portal, things you may have missed from the transfer portal in the off season. We don't really call it the off season around here. I know I kind of took an off season, and I'm sorry. Kind of didn't live by my own word there, but we got a few ways we go about it. We call it the non-playing season, of course. That's when football's not being played. We got the playing season, or the prove it season, as we may call it, which is out there on the gridiron every Saturday. We have recruiting season, which really leads through all year, 365 days a year. We've got spring football currently going on. Spring games are happening this weekend, or spring scrimmages in the case of Wake Forest, where I'll be this weekend. Plus much more, man. It's a really cool time. Preview season also. I have to shout out preview season. Here on June 1st, that's when it begins. Preview season is 68 teams in 68 days. That is the entire Power 4 plus Notre Dame. I'm excited to get started with that this year. Again, we did it last year. We did 68 teams in 69 days. Nice. But 68 and 68 is the goal. Unfortunately, at that time, the reason we had 68 and 69 days was because of a death in the family. So unfortunately, that kind of dampened the mood a little bit. It wasn't going to get done. But we're here this year, excited to do that again. I hope you guys will stick around and enjoy the new side of that we're going to have this year. I'm very excited to kind of carry on with that. I've got a lot of plans for us, so make sure you stick around. Make sure you like and subscribe if you're new around here. You hit that notification button if you enjoyed what we've done here today and what we're going to do. If you've been here before and you wonder, man, what are you talking about new? We had a channel update yesterday. Well, I dropped a channel update yesterday. Some things you can expect going forward, some reasons why we've been MIA over the last 4 months, and me just saying, hey, look, I'm sorry. Unfortunately, life happens, and I think that certainly is something that we should all agree is okay at times, and I'm just excited to be back here and ready to keep rolling with Armchair Analysis. It's been a lot of fun. The first year was great. I'm excited for year 2. I'm excited to get that sign hung up. You'll notice it's not there quite yet. I've got one more thing I'm waiting on, and once I get that, which should be tomorrow or today as you're watching this video, you should see the sign hung up the right way tomorrow, Thursday. Don't know what that video is going to be, like I said, but we'll figure it out. I thank y'all so much, though, for tuning in. Appreciate y'all being here and being a part of this Armchair Analysis community. Make sure you, again, like, subscribe, comment down below. Let me know your thoughts. What would you add to this? What would you disagree with? What would you change? And as always, hope y'all have a great rest of your day. And we'll see you tomorrow with another episode of Armchair Analysis.